Hi, this is Brian of College Station. Right now I'm going to go through the General Convention resolutions, just take a brief look at them, see if anybody else is interested in this kind of thing. Please comment if you have anything to say. I'd like to hear it because, it seems like a lot of the times this stuff, it feels like anyway, as far as I know, this stuff just kind of goes through and there's not a whole lot of attention paid to it, at least not by outsiders like myself, so I'm not a delegate or anything like that. But I remember last time I saw some resolutions and I was kind of like, how'd that happen? And so I'd like to take a look at them again. So it looks like there are 225 resolutions total. Like, a lot of them have to do with stuff that they matter to people, but I don't find them super like interesting. Like, site for the General Convention, that's important, but so it looks like you're talking about considering Kansas City, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, Portland, and San Juan, Puerto Rico. I got the impression that San Juan, Puerto Rico was looked at before too, and some people on the subreddit, man, they were super disappointed that there's some kind of an idea that placement of the General Convention should be used as a way to, I don't know, do some sort of social justice thing, which just seems like a super inefficient way of helping out people in Puerto Rico dealing. I'm sure they're dealing with stuff, but it seems like trying to get a bunch of Episcopalians to show up there for a convention might not be the best way to help out over there. So there are a bunch of things, and so they have different ways that you can look at these. 225. To me, that's too many to go through one by one. So they have it. You can do it by proposer. I have very little idea of who any of the people are. I can tell that, right reverend, okay, so that's a bishop, although I could have seen that through the bishop's thing. And we've got I'm pretty new here. I don't know what the venerate means. Stephen Costa. Water is life. Okay. Anyway, so lots of different people doing these things, although not. That seems strange to me. That doesn't seem like as many people as I would have thought, individual proposers for the deputies. But so I know that bishops can propose things. It looks like deputies can propose things. I know about bishops and deputies, but it looks like committees and interim bodies, which I guess are established by previous general conventions and whatnot, and then dioceses. So I know that before the General Convention they have diocesan meetings. I don't know how to pronounce things, but anyway, so I know that Texas, which is where I'm at, they had one, and I presume that that's where they elects the deputies, and then provinces, I guess. I didn't know that they had provincial meetings, but let's see what they did. Resolution to create safe spaces. It's a little 2019. I don't know. Conversations concerning the relationship. Okay, so it seems that Province 6 has got some concerns about how provinces work. I don't know anything. Where is Province 6? Let's see where that is. Province Province 6, the Episcopal Church. So it includes Buffalo. What? Buffalo, New York. Land of mountains and lakes. That's strange to me that... Oh, okay. I guess this is the Episcopal Church website. This isn't the Province 6. So anyway, so it's the kind of central mountain region. Okay, cool. All right, so they've got concerns about how provinces are dealt with. I'm curious what's driving that. Let's see, anything from Texas? I don't see anything. Ooh, see what the Europeans are into. Add somebody to the feasts and fasts. Okay, so it's kind of interesting to see what different people are into Navajo land. Trying to get them to become a missionary diocese. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so yeah, so you can go through them and look at them like that. Another way to look at them is by committee, and that's something that I'm familiar with. So they have, looks like 23 different committees. And so I believe the way it works is that each gets sent to a committee. So yeah, if you look, each of these is sent to a committee, and I know that at least sometimes the committee will put it on a consent agenda or something like that if they think that it should just be passed. And I kind of got the impression from looking at some of the stuff that happened back in 2022, I believe it was. Is that when the last one was? GC 80 Episcopal. Let's see. When was it? 2022, yeah, Baltimore. All right, so that's when and so very few things that are put on the consent agenda wind up being taken off the consent agenda, which in my experience is with city council, that's kind of how things go for the most part. If staff or whoever is in charge of things puts something on a consent agenda, it usually stays there and doesn't get looked at very much, which I'm sure is usually fine. You know, if like for instance, putting Ellie Naud, sorry for mispronouncing that, adding them to lesser feasts and fasts, there probably doesn't need to be a big discussion about that. If the prayer book and liturgy and music committee says, yeah, this is probably fine, then probably this person isn't, super controversial, and it's probably makes sense to not spend a lot of time on that. But one reason that I'm taking a look at this is because we have committees that deal with political things, and one thing that I wonder about is the extent to which the Episcopal Church needs to take hard and fast stances on political issues, and if they do take a stance on a political issue, to what extent do they need to be do these things need to be discussed? Because the way it tends to happen seems to be these things get passed off in the ether and or in esoteric committees, and for the most part the entire church doesn't even know it's happening. So I wonder, does there need to be a discussion about these things, or do they not even really matter. And for instance, when I try to bring things up either with the Office of Government Relations, or when I tried to talk about it with somebody who is on one of these committees dealing with, I think it was the same name, Social Justice and U.S. Policy. There didn't seem to be a huge appetite, and it's understandable because I'm kind of a who knows who cares person. I'm not a delegate or anything like that, but not a huge appetite to try to hatch these things out or try to convince the rest of the church that something passed at the General Convention is something that everyone needs to believe. And a thing that I think is, like, if it's not even worth talking about, then why are we passing these things? So the two of the primary places where I'm kind of wondering what's going on is with social justice and international policy, and then with U.S. policy. So with U.S. policy, I've looked at this one a little bit before. It doesn't look like there's more than there used to be when I first looked at this. Pacifism and just war, that seems to be somewhat related to foreign policy also, but we could take a look at it. Combat rising religious nationalism. I know that that's something that Bishop Curry and others have been talking about a lot with the Episcopal Church, and oddly, there are some people who kind of claim the name, which just seems bizarre to me, because it's like, anyway, it's weird. So affordable housing, I'm sure that being an economist, I don't know, this is something that I care about a lot, but I suspect that there's, so yeah, it looks like this is trying to create a task force, and I don't have a lot of faith in that. I don't know. I don't see why the Episcopal Church necessarily needs a task force to deal with that. I think it's a difficult issue, and I certainly have ideas about what would help. I know Brian Kaplan has a book that's coming out, or has come out. I'm probably going to take a look at that one, but I suspect I'd agree with that one. Religious liberty, this is kind of a strange one. So urge the United States Congress and the state legislatures to refrain from passing laws and legislation that conflict with or interfere with the religious liberty of Episcopalians to practice their faith. I'm going to have to look at the explanation for that one, because I haven't known Episcopalians to be particularly oppressed. So acknowledge that vows of our baptismal covenant to respect the dignity of every human being and to seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving our neighbor as ourselves, are foundational in our relationships as members of the body of Christ. And we also acknowledge that the Constitution and canons of the Episcopal Church prohibit discrimination based on, among other things, sexual orientation and gender identity / expression. Probably, I don't know, there's a lot of Constitution and canons, but that would not surprise me. Recent legislation passed by various state legislatures violates the religious liberty of Episcopalians by discriminating against individuals based on their sexual orientation, gender identity / expression. I'm not entirely sure that I suspect it's something to do with transsexual issues, but transgender, I probably used the wrong term there. Anyway, but the T in LGBT, we are entitled to practice our religious beliefs according to the Constitution of the United States and in accordance with our own Constitution and canons. legislation restricting the rights of parents regarding their transgender children violates those beliefs. Okay, similarly, practicing discrimination against persons based on sexual orientation and or gender identity / expression also violates those beliefs. So it's not clear to me how you wouldn't necessarily be able to pull that out from the resolution text. But I don't know. So the explanation is doing a lot of the work there. It's like, I don't know. I don't know much about the laws that they're talking about. I know that some of the things dealing with medical procedures, with children, hormone therapy and things like that has kind of given me pause. But I certainly don't like laws about anything, but it does, I don't know. Anyways, that's the thing. Going back to the resolution, so religious liberty, that's a little, you might miss what is meant by that one. So then they got this water is life one. I wonder what that is. So there's looking at some older resolutions, including going back to 1973, and they're dealing with aid of American militia to the sovereign nation of Hawaii is okay. They support and encourage the folks in the Episcopal Church to affirm Native Hawaiians and their stewardship of water. Okay. That's voice. So who proposed this one? Venerable Stephen Costa. Where's this person from? If this person's from Hawaii, I'd give a lot more. That'd carry a lot more weight with me anyway. Cathedral of St. Andrew. Where's St. Andrew? Diocese of Hawaii. Okay, that's, you'd think Steve Costa would know something about it, so that's good. And so they're advocating for the closure of Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility. I don't know. Sure. I don't know what's normal. It seems like a somewhat strange thing to have like a national church policy on, but it certainly seems like the kind of thing that, yeah, if they have a stance on whether or not that fuel facility should be open or not, I'd take their stance, probably defer to them. Prohibition of assault weapons, this was one, I actually spoke on this one, and so one thing that's kind of interesting about this one is they wound up wanting to, so they again urge U.S. Congress to adopt a new ban on the purchase and assault and ownership of all assault weapons. Then they go on automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons, or weapons that operate similarly thereto. So with this, they're not only working on a ban for assault weapons, which is, I think, not a great policy, but it's not unheard of. But then they go a lot further and say that they want to ban semi-automatic weapons, which would include, a Ruger 1022 or all kinds of things that most people don't actually have a problem with, or I say don't have a problem with it, but anyway, it goes a lot further than even most gun safety, gun control groups go. And I suspect that was written kind of as a mistake. It's not clear to me that the people writing this intended it to be as extreme as all that, but we'll see if they wind up amending it. And then it's got its explanation, and there's a lot of things. Estimates that over 20 million Americans now possess these types of assault automatic or semi-automatic weapons. Way more than 20 million Americans possess semi-automatic weapons. That's one of the things that makes me think that that was a mistake. So it might be 20 million Americans now possess assault weapons, whether they're automatic or semi-automatic. That is, whether they're automatic assault weapons or semi-automatic assault weapons. But yeah, way more than 20 million own a semi-automatic of some kind. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that one. And if we go back, declaring gun violence a national health crisis. This is, I don't know. I'm sure we could get into details. I wonder what the Victims of Crime Act is, but so there's these kinds of things. Support regulations on generative artificial intelligence. So they're coming on the side of, I suspect, the doomers. Regulate the use of data to train algorithms. I don't know, I'm not a huge hooray for IP person, and usually these kinds of regulations are used to kind of put a moat around the incumbent powers of the thing, which I feel like kind of feeds into the thing of the Episcopal Church sort of being the church of established powers. Although most of these things seem at least well-intentioned. Okay, so they touch on those kinds of things. Support for child labor protections. This is someone that wished I could have gotten a job earlier than I did. I don't know about all this, but for sure they're trying to target this toward young poor people. Although it'd be kind of gross to create an exception for rich kids, but I know that work isn't always the worst thing that a kid might do, but sometimes it's awful, so I don't know, but when people have money, they usually don't take the awful jobs, so prosperity seems to be the best protection against the kind of unwanted child labor that we're talking about. So addressing traffic fatalities, I haven't seen this one. So recognizing fatalities due to traffic accidents, yep. It's a justice issue due to the disparate impact that are on vulnerable populations. Like, sure, but to me the disparate impact is just an indication that possibly some people are getting killed by cars more than they need to be, just given by the fact that other people aren't getting killed by cars so much. So it might be that some people are unnecessarily put in danger for whatever reason. for ways for people to be able to travel safely, sure. But, so they want to do it by prioritizing pedestrian driver and passenger safety and street design through use of traffic calming measures and investment in walkable communities. These are things that people are doing anyway, I think. Walkable, though. I know locally we aren't doing that so much. Incentivizing vehicle designs that promote pedestrian safety as well as passenger safety. I mean, that's what people do. This implementing policies to eliminate, minimize, or mitigate distracted or impaired driving. These are things people. Is this what we need to say as a church? I mean, I'd create safe ways to share the road with cyclists, pedestrians, and riders of other small vehicles such as scooters, including protected bike lanes and high visibility sidewalks. Investing in expansive and flexible public transit networks. I don't know what flexible public transit networks means, including high-speed rail and bus rapid transit. I don't know, in Texas they've got a high-speed rail project that just seems like a really bad idea, and I know that they've had a mess of things in California. That feels like a goofy thing that the church doesn't necessarily need to be dealing with. So resolve that the Episcopal Church call upon car manufacturing and insurance companies to prioritize pedestrian, cyclist safety, and vehicle design, and that the Committee on Corporate Social Responsibility of the Executive Council of the Episcopal Church be tasked with engaging relevant companies in the church's investment portfolio on approaches to reduce traffic fatalities and promote pedestrian and cyclist safety. Be it for the idea that this Committee on Corporate Social Responsibility of the Executive Council of the Episcopal Church needs to be expert enough on this issue in order to like intelligently engage with relevant companies to push for like, what are they going to be able to say other than, dead pedestrians is something we want less of? Like, I don't know, it seems crazy to me. Resolved that the Episcopal Church encourages congregations to assess both transportation needs of their members and the traffic safety needs of their parking lots and surrounding neighborhood. Yeah, sure. Like, if those are issues, you should be dealing with them, but it's not clear to me why this needs to be a national church resolution. And then collaborate with local organizations on traffic safety issues and advocate at the local level for improvements to reduce traffic fatalities. Reducing traffic fatalities is a good thing, but it's not clear to me that the parish of St. Thomas, in College Station needs to, as a congregation, get involved with minimizing traffic fatalities in the city. It just that seems weird to me. Oh my goodness. It seems like they're trying to do everything. And then closing Guantanamo Bay Prison, sure, but again, it seems weird to necessarily have a thing for the national church. Support and advocacy for restorative justice and a moral commitment to abolition of prisons and policing. That seems a little extreme. I'm about as anarchist as they come. That's what everybody always says before they're about to say something statist. But does the church really need to be? Do we expect the church to be on board with something that, that seems more extreme than most people probably want to get within the church, and it's not clear to me that needs to be something that we're all on the same page about. Like, I feel like people can be Episcopalians and disagree strongly with the author here and myself about whether state police is the optimal way to go for security stuff. Support policies for reducing police budgets or disinvesting from policing. That seems like something that is, I don't know. It seems like it's worth having a conversation about if that is something that we are going to be seriously taking a stance on as a church. And then opposing reforms that aim to build better prisons. I don't know. I don't know much about criminal justice and that type of thing, but it seems not obvious to me that there isn't a case sometimes that, a newer facility might be better. Seems like a weird one. But yeah, it's a thing. So these are the ones for the social justice and U.S. policy. And then we've got international policy, and here we have a lot of Israel-related stuff, real hot right now. Apartheid, responsible travel to the Holy Land, basically saying encouraging people to work with Palestinian-owned companies, or to make special trips to deal with Palestinian occupation, taking a look at that, which, I don't know, sure, but it seems, do we need to have a church policy on that? Migration with dignity. So I wonder, do these look the same? They're a little different. I don't know. I could see doing a, if I were going to do a deep dive on this one, I might do a comparison and see if the language is kind of similar. But they're all from California, so I wonder, it's something that they're focused on this, something conditioning military aid to Israel, ending apartheid, so lots of Palestinian solidarity, lots of use of the word apartheid, which, I don't know, maybe, but it seems like, man, it's a hairy topic, and it's not clear to me that everybody needs to be on the same page. But yeah, so expressing a solidarity with Palestinians, solidarity with the BDS movement, rejecting the theology and politics of Christian Zionism, peace through equal rights in Israel and Palestine, swords into plowshares, U.S. accountability and responsibility in rebuilding Gaza. Wait, so out of these, how many of these didn't deal with? So 3 migration things, although maybe these had something to do with Israel also. Not necessarily, maybe, but okay, so most of them dealing with Israel-Palestine issues. So swords into plowshares, conditioning U.S. military assistance, resolving the conflict between Israel and the Palestinian people. I'm kind of curious Justice and Peace in Ukraine. Okay. A little stale, but joking. But, so... that this convention notes that the conflict can never be reconciled while 4,500,000 plus Palestinians remain under occupation in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, including East Jerusalem. I don't know what them being under occupation is, but setting out that that the conflict can't be reconciled under some conditions, like, I don't know, maybe let negotiations work out. But yeah, God willing, that thing ends. Just a mess. Justice and peace in Ukraine. I don't know. And then we have racial truth-telling and reckoning and healing. So continued funding of the beloved community, developing a common framework for anti-racism training, continue the task force on indigenous liturgy, establish model practices, policies for anti-racism, racial reconciliation work, renew ECAR, I don't know what ECAR is, hire a chief equity officer, translate reconciliation resources into Spanish, increase recruitment, hiring, appointment, retention, and representation of people of color in church positions, owning a commitment to reparations. This was one that I saw that kind of stuck out to me. Create an independent reparations fund commission. So, and it's going to be made up by some people, we don't know who yet. It's going to be overseen by the Episcopal Coalition for Racial Equity and Justice. And then it's their charge to create a substantial fund from TEC assets. Like, we don't know what substantial means. If this passes, does that mean they necessarily get the fund? The funding, it seems strange to me. The purpose of which is a sustained, meaningful, tangible response to the historic and ongoing legacy of slavery and displacement of indigenous peoples of what is now the United States. And then that the Reparations Fund Commission or an entity that it approves will be responsible for defining and implementing payments of reparation. Is this a first step, or is this a blank check? I don't know. It's a strange one. Renewing ECAR. I wonder what that is. The church reaffirms the importance of the work of the Executive Council Committee on Anti-Racism and Reconciliation. I don't know. Okay. So these are just some of the things. For the most part, though, they're stuff that doesn't seem super weird. Stewardship and socially responsible investing. There's been some stuff. Support for freedom to consider ethical issues in investing. Sure. No investment in certain weapons. Divest from fossil fuels. I know that the someone associated with the church, I think it was like the retirement plan or something like that, wound up pushing Ruger, I believe it was, to do a non-binding resolution to create a thing talking about how their products violate human rights or something, which seems kind of not to go with the well-being of shareholders, but so I know that they've done strategic investment just to be able to propose things in board meetings and stuff, or shareholder meetings, I mean. So, anyway, so they're pushing for some of these things. Joint rules of order. Nothing. Not too many of these. Fix a rounding error. That's, you gotta do it. Create a task force. World mission. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Creating a task force on countering the colonial mindset. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, there are a lot of these things. So I guess with 23 committees, 225 resolutions, that would be an average of 10 per committee. Some have way more than that. Some have less. Somewhere in here I bet there's a, okay, here, that's more. There's got to be a couple with some like this where you have more like 20 different things. I know that some people have been talking about full communion with the United Methodists. I don't know if that's officially done. Okay, affirming the goal of full communion. So they're working on that. Proposed by the Standing Commission, so that the commission is pushing for that. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, lots of talk about those kinds of things. Anyway, so there are quite a few things in here, and yeah, it just seems like there's not a lot of discussion outside of the convention and the committees themselves, and I feel like there are how many Episcopalians? A bunch, some like 1 million. Let me just see how wrong I am. So, let's see what the 7,000 parishes members, active members 2022, 1.5 million. Okay. So I was wrong, but on the order of not wrong. Anyway, yeah. So feel free to give comment if there's something in particular you find interesting. I know at least one person had a comment about rules of order for the House of Deputies. I think it was 25. Which one was that? By committee. Joint rules of order. Nah. Let me do a search. D025. Okay. Yeah, so someone said that they had put this one in here, and it seemed, I'd be curious if there is any controversy on this one, or if this is just easy pass one. So talking about intake officers for creating a church-wide intake officer for complaints. And so I don't know what the nature of these complaints are, if these are like, bad acting things, but it seems if there isn't already a church-wide intake officer, it seems like maybe a thing to do, but maybe somebody has a good reason not to. Anyway, so if you have anything else that you'd like to start a conversation about, any particular subject, committee, whatever that you think is kind of interesting. I'm interested to see what other people find interesting. So yeah, feel free to comment, and yeah, let's start a conversation. Thanks.